Coming up now on your spoiler-free wrestling news rundown, we've had 2 matches added to the Windy City Riot lineup for April 16th. Monaro Suzuki has commented on his upcoming match with Samoa Joe, and we've got news from elsewhere around the wrestling world. Subscribe to Spoiler-Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news. There's not much going on in New Japan Pro Wrestling this week. They are back at it on Monday, April the 18th, when they start the Golden Fight Series. Now, only one of the shows that they present next week will air live on New Japan World. That is Monday's show. The Tuesday and Wednesday show on the tour will be added to the streaming service at a later date. And the matches on those shows are just tag team matches, which are building up what takes place at Wrestling Dontaku on May the 1st. So the next big event for New Japan Pro Wrestling will actually take place in Chicago on April 16th as we are headed towards Windy City Riot, which will be a pay-per-view event available on Fight TV. So there were a couple of matches added to the show recently. One of those matches involves the Factory's QT Marshall, Aaron Solo, and Nick Camarado going up against the LA Dojo's Carl Fredericks, Clark Connors, and Yuya Uemura. This was set up this week on an episode of New Japan Strong when the Factory came out. So you've got these 2 different schools, these dojos, these wrestling academies will be squaring off in a trios match on Windy City Riot. The other match that was added to Windy City Riot in the last couple of days involves Wheeler Yuta teaming up with Rocky Romero and going up against Kevin Knight and the DKC. So this should be interesting because Wheeler Yuta is not really associated with the Best Friends anymore in AEW, and the Best Friends had been associated with Chaos and Rocky Romero. So now Wheeler Yuta, who in AEW storyline is now a member of the Blackpool Combat Club and has left the Best Friends, he's going to be teaming with Rocky Romero. Now this is going to be a dark match, they say, so I'm not even sure if this is going to air on the pay-per-view, but it should be interesting to see how Wheeler Yuta and Rocky Romero get along when this event happens on the 16th. And Wheeler Yuta took to Twitter and commented on this match where he'll team with Romero. And he said, "Okada told me today he's like a month and a half behind on AEW, so nobody tell him please and thank you." So now let's run down the lineup for Saturday's pay-per-view event. We will see Jon Moxley take on Will Ospreay. We'll see Tomohiro Ishii take on Monaro Suzuki in a match that was built up on the New Japan Cup Tour. Jay White will hold his US of J Open Challenge. Also concerning Jay White, so he had his match against Hikuleo at New Japan Pro Wrestling's Mutiny event in Los Angeles over the weekend. However, that match will air on Strong in the coming weeks, so we will wait to talk about what happened until everyone has had a chance to see it. Also at Windy City Riot, we will see the New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong Openweight Championship defended, as Tom Lawler will defend against Yuji Nagata. We'll see Fred Rosser team up with Chris Dickinson, Josh Alexander, Alex Coughlin, and Ren Narita to take on Team Filthy's Royce Isaacs, Jarrell Nelson, JR Kratos, Danny Limelight, and Black Tiger. Of course, Fred Rosser has let Strong Openweight champion Tom Lawler know that he's still gunning for that title. We will see the United Empire's Great-O-Khan, Jeff Cobb, Aaron Hanare, TJP, Mark Davis, and Kyle Fletcher team up to take on the Bullet Club's Doc Gallows, Carl Anderson, El Phantasmo, Chris Bay, Hikuleo, and former member of NWO Japan, Scott Norton, will be teaming up with Bullet Club at Windy City Riot. In a Chicago street fight, we will see Finn Juice, David Finlay and Juice Robinson, team up with Brody King to take on Shane Haste, Jonah, and Bad Dude Tito. So a lot of good matches to look forward to at Windy City Riot on Saturday. Also concerning New Japan Pro Wrestling of the USA, Chris Dickinson has announced that he has signed with the promotion officially. This deal will still allow him to work indies in the United States and for international promotions outside of Japan. Chris Dickinson took to social media to write, I am beyond proud to announce that I have officially signed an agreement with New Japan Pro Wrestling. I've heard you all for years say I should sign with other companies, and I appreciate every one of your hopes for my success, but this is what I've always wanted. With the company's expansion in the USA on the rise, and Japan finally reopening, the future is brighter than ever. I am still available to work independently in the USA and internationally, excluding Japan, but NJPW is now home. Let's continue to bring the highest level of pro wrestling to the world together. So Chris Dickinson, now officially a member of the New Japan Pro Wrestling roster. Unfortunately, there aren't very good updates coming out of the situation involving Shinjiro Ohtani. As we mentioned in a previous video, Ohtani was injured over the weekend after taking a German suplex into the turnbuckle on a 0-1 show. He was unable to move after. The ring ropes were removed, the fans were asked to leave. Eventually, Ohtani was transferred to hospital. He is said to be conscious, he's aware of his surroundings. However, he is unable to move his arms or legs. There was an update from 0-1 that came out yesterday saying that there will be surgery done. Ohtani will be undergoing surgery for a cervical spinal injury. And that surgery will take place today on Wednesday. And it is being done to prevent future deterioration. Unfortunately, that's really all the updates we have for Shinjiro Ohtani at the moment. We will keep you updated with everything that we hear. In a previous video, we noted that Tangaloa was saying a lot of sort of ominous things about not being happy with what happened between Bullet Club and the Guerrillas of Destiny. How the Guerrillas of Destiny were now losing all of their matches after the breakup, that they used to be the ones delivering the beatdowns, and now they were on the receiving ends of beatdowns. But now that the Guerrillas of Destiny have gotten a win under their belts against the Bullet Club, of course that happened in the 8-man tag team match at Hyper Battle 2022, Tangaloa seems like he's sort of changed his tune a little bit. He sent out this tweet at Jado saying, "Seeing this man fire up keeps the fire burning with me. Grateful to share the ring with you, real Jado." And all of those comments about having trouble wrapping his head around what has happened between Bullet Club and Guerrillas of Destiny, doesn't seem like he's sending out those tweets anymore. So maybe Tangaloa has settled into his new role with the New Japan Pro Wrestling main unit, with the Hontai group, along with Hiroshi Tanahashi and his brother, Taguchi, Master Wato. He also took an interesting shot at Danny Limelight here, which I thought was interesting. So Danny Limelight, who's a member of Team Filthy in New Japan Pro Wrestling of USA, just sent out the tweet that's up on your screen now, with a list of promotions that he's been able to work for recently, including New Japan Pro Wrestling, AEW, MLW, Impact, and AAA, along with the caption, "Still underrated and overhated." Tangaloa decided to respond to him saying, "New Japan Pro Wrestling USA, yes. I don't remember seeing you in Japan wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling. Just saying, tell your friends," claiming the same as well. So a bit of a shot at Danny Limelight here, and a bit of a shot at New Japan Pro Wrestling of USA as well. I think we've all seen New Japan Pro Wrestling of USA grow and evolve a little with episodes of Strong. Tangaloa, however, drawing a line between New Japan Pro Wrestling in Japan and New Japan Pro Wrestling in the USA. This Wednesday on Dynamite, we'll see a huge match pitting the new ROH television champion Monaro Suzuki against former Ring of Honor World Champion and recent signee to AEW Samoa Joe. Monaro Suzuki was interviewed through a translator for an article for Sports Illustrated talking about the match, and here is what he had to say. Suzuki said, "Many fans think this matchup is very special, but for me, I have to stay true to myself. I am here to hurt people. The opponent truly does not matter. This week I will make Samoa Joe suffer." He continued to say that people are brave until they step into the ring with me. Hopefully Samoa Joe is not scared. I don't know him well, but he will know me by the time we are done. He also continued to say that He is with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and his goal is to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship from Kazuchika Okada. Suzuki said, "I am wrestling for New Japan Pro Wrestling, and that is what I want. I am aiming for the IWGP title." And continuing to talk about his match with Samoa Joe this week, Suzuki said, "I hurt people. That is what I do. Samoa Joe is going to feel a lot of pain." Speaking of tonight's edition of AEW Dynamite, AEW President Tony Khan announced that TBS has granted Dynamite a permission for an overrun. What an overrun is, it grants them the ability to go past 10 p.m. Eastern Time when the show normally ends. So if they have a match that's running a little bit long, perhaps tonight's Dynamite will go to 10:05 p.m. or 10:10 p.m. So the overrun was an interesting part of the Monday Night Wars back in the day, and now an overrun has been granted for AEW Dynamite. So we'll see what that means for their ratings as well. So shortly after Tony Khan announced that there will be an overrun for tonight's episode, he also announced a match between CM Punk and Penta Oscuro, aka Pentagon Jr. That brings the match lineup for tonight to 7 announced matches. That's more than they normally announce for an episode of Dynamite. But those matches are CM Punk taking on Penta Oscuro, and CM Punk has made no secret of the fact that he's gunning for the AEW World Championship as of late. He'll need to get by Pentagon to move closer to that goal. Marina Shafir is the next to challenge Jade Cargill for the TBS Championship. She'll be in singles action on Dynamite tonight as she takes on Sky Blue, and one would probably expect that Jade Cargill will be watching that match closely. Maxwell Jacob Friedman will be in action tonight. He's going to take on Sean Dean. The last time that Dean and MJF squared off, it was while MJF was still in the thick of his rivalry with CM Punk, and MJF said that he was going to win a bunch of matches en route to getting a world title shot. However, CM Punk wanted another crack at MJF, so he didn't want him to go on a winning streak and get a title shot. So CM Punk attacked Sean Dean during this match, causing Sean Dean to win by disqualification. And so now MJF has a chance to avenge that quote-unquote loss as MJF and Sean Dean face off in singles action tonight on Dynamite. We'll also see Swerve Strickland team up with Keith Lee to take on Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks. And the Team Taz members have been feuding with Lee and Strickland as of late. We will see Eddie Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz take on the Jericho Appreciation Society team of Chris Jericho, Jake Hager, and Daniel Garcia. As previously mentioned, we'll see Monaro Suzuki take on Samoa Joe. And also for the AEW World Tag Team Championships tonight, we'll see Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus defend against the Red Dragon team of Kyle O'Reilly and Bobby Fish. Also, in addition to episodes of AEW Dynamite and AEW Rampage being uploaded to New Japan World, Wrestle Universe, that's the streaming service for DDT, have announced that episodes of Dynamite and Rampage are coming to their streaming service as well. And this comes on the heels of AEW and DDT announcing that they've reached an agreement that will bring wrestlers from DDT to AEW. And there are certainly reports that some of those DDT wrestlers could debut on AEW programming in the near future. So that's going to do it for this video, everyone. We'll be releasing another one on Friday. Subscribe to Spoiler Free Wrestling for all your wrestling news.